The Insta360 Ace Pro 2 has its strengths over the Osmo Action 5 Pro and vice versa, so I find myself still wanting to use both interchangeably at the moment because in some situations I prefer the Ace Pro 2 and in others I prefer the Action 5 Pro, and this is as much based on features as it is with quality. I can completely appreciate if this doesn't help you because you're trying to decide between the two, but hopefully everything I highlight in this video will get you closer to making a decision for yourself based on your preference for features, quality and the look of the footage from each of the cameras. And there is no right or wrong here, it is literally down to your preference, and I will tell you which one I feel like I'm leaning towards the most and why. But first up, before I go into detail about that and also one of the biggest points for me, which is video quality and audio quality, let me first highlight features that can start to help you decide which camera might be the better option for you before finally getting onto quality. The first thing to ask yourself is, what do you actually want the next camera you buy to be for? So if you're watching a load of comparison videos and you don't really know that, it's actually going to cause you to be more confused and have you sitting more on the fence than before. What I tend to find myself repeating in a lot of comments from people who ask which camera they should buy is, how will you use the camera and what would make your life easier when using the camera? I talk about these action cameras in terms of vlogging because they're great for vlogging, so that's what this video is going to be focusing on. Vlogging and traveling or shooting holiday videos, that kind of thing. And so starting with features, the Ace Pro 2 is packed with so many features that kind of lean more towards convenience. So things like gesture control for shooting videos or taking photos if you can't be near the camera, pause recording so you can minimize editing later. It's almost like you're kind of editing in the camera. Then there's cancel recording so that you don't have to sift through loads of unwanted clips and delete them later if you know that whilst you're filming you messed up that clip and you're absolutely not going to use that clip anyway. And they're just a few features that the Action 5 Pro doesn't have. And can you live without those features? Absolutely. You don't need them, but it's just the kind of features that are convenient and just make your life a little bit easier. And they're just really nice features to have. Another convenient feature that I love, which is actually with the Action 5 Pro, is the internal storage, because you get 47 gig and you can also have an SD card at the same time as well. I didn't actually think that I'd use this all that much, but I've definitely found myself using the internal storage a lot more than I thought. And there were definitely times, I'll admit, where I had gone out and I'd forgotten my SD card because I was editing something and I was in a bit of a rush and I just didn't put the card back into the camera. And so having that internal storage is just a very welcome feature to have on the Action 5 Pro. So this next feature comes down entirely to how you film your videos, whether you film at awkward angles or if you want to have a bigger view whilst you're filming yourself, so whilst you're vlogging and talking to the camera, and that is to do with the screens. So if that's you, then the flip screen of the Ace Pro 2 is going to be great to have. That's one of those things that I really like about the Ace Pro 2 over the Action 5 Pro, because even though the Action 5 Pro has a front touchscreen, it's obviously smaller. But I obviously lived without it when I was just using the Osmo Action 4, which I've been using for the past year, and I absolutely love it. It's been my favourite camera. So it's not something that I think would be a complete deal breaker for me in a camera. It's just nice to have. So audio is a really big deal for me. It doesn't matter what camera I'm using, but whatever camera I'm going to choose, I want to make sure that it's got really good audio quality with the least amount of faffing around. The biggest reason that I love the Action 4 and the Action 5 Pro is for the direct Bluetooth connection with the DJI Mic 2, something that the Pocket 3 also has, and it means that I don't need to plug in a receiver, and I can also get backup audio files just in case anything happens to the audio in the camera, which to be honest has never happened. I've never had anything go wrong with the audio, whether I'm filming with the Osmo Action 4 or the Osmo Pocket 3 or even with the Action 5 Pro, but it's one of those little things that is just, again, a nice to have just in case anything were to happen. Now with the Ace Pro 2's new removable wind guard that comes installed by default on the camera, you don't necessarily need a dedicated external mic because the audio does sound very good and clear even when it's windy. If it's too windy though, you do pick up a little bit of that wind noise in the mic, but the audio still comes out pretty clear anyway. And so the other reason why I really love the wind guard for the Ace Pro 2 is because a lot of the time I don't actually like to wear a microphone because it can just be quite cumbersome to use for me. I'm always worried that my hair's going to be brushing the mic and creating lots of crackly sounds, or if I'm wearing a coat that's a little bit awkward to put the mic on, then again it just makes it really difficult to where I'm going to put the mic. So yeah, that is one of the reasons. So this is what I was talking about when I was saying about how I don't like having mics clipped to me, because with this coat I don't really know where I'd put it, because this is quite thick, so the magnet wouldn't necessarily hold the mic very well, and then my hair's just everywhere. So yeah, this is why whatever is going to be the most convenient and easiest way for me to get good audio, I'm down for that, for sure. Otherwise I'm just holding the mic, and this is why I hold the mic. So yeah, that's one of the reasons why I really like the wind guard on the Ace Pro 2. With the Action 5 Pro and the DJI Mic 2, the audio is going to sound clear no matter how windy it is, as long as you've got the wind muff on the transmitter. And the other thing is, if you're filming a video with the Action 5 Pro and there are two of you, you can have two mics connected via Bluetooth and get clean, clear audio from both people, no matter where they are in relation to the camera. This isn't necessarily the case for the Ace Pro 2, because if you're just using the onboard mic from the camera, then you have to be positioned in front of the camera in order for the audio to pick up your voice as clearly as possible. So if you know that you're going to be moving around, or there's going to be more than you in the video, and that person is also not going to be very close to the camera, or they're going to be moving around or have their back to the camera, then it is going to be better to connect an external microphone to the Ace Pro 2. Basically, just giving you an idea of what the audio sounds like directly from the cameras. So the Ace Pro 2 has got its wind guard on, and it's got voice enhancement on, and then the Action 5 Pro is just as it is. Yeah, just as it is, no wind noise reduction or anything like that. And this is what the audio is sounding like directly from both of the cameras. There's traffic, there's cars going by, and it'll be interesting to hear which one sounds the best. Given that you can actually have a direct connection into the USB-C port of the Ace Pro 2, it makes it really easy to connect an external mic anyway. I've used the microphone from the Hollyland Lark M2 and the audio sounds very good. And it's also worth mentioning that you can also have direct Bluetooth connection with the DJI Mic 2 and the Ace Pro 2, so you don't have to use the receiver with the DJI Mic 2. But the audio quality isn't very good, which is no fault of Insta360, because it literally comes down to protocol. Alright, so just to give you an idea of what the audio sounds like, this is via Bluetooth. So yeah, the Mic 2 is connected via Bluetooth, and this is how the audio sounds with the Ace Pro 2. If you listen to it in comparison to the Action 5 Pro via Bluetooth, this is how the audio sounds from the Action 5 Pro and the DJI Mic 2 connected via Bluetooth. So there is a difference. It obviously sounds cleaner on the Action 5 Pro, which is to be expected. So you're better off just plugging in a receiver, like I said, with the Hollyland Lark M2, or even with the DJI Mic 2, just plug in a receiver and it's going to give you better audio quality. So the Ace Pro 2 has an 1800 milliamp hour battery, and the Action 5 Pro has a 1950 milliamp hour battery, and it makes such a difference. The Ace Pro 2 is currently on 68%, and the Action 5 Pro is on 85%. They both started out at 100% battery. I've been filming the same amount of clips, basically the same. The settings are basically the same across both of the cameras as well. And so yeah, that high capacity battery of the Action 5 is definitely, you can definitely see a difference, for sure. Also, with the Action 5 Pro, you can get the Adventure combo, which gives you 3 of those long-lasting batteries, but with the Ace Pro 2, you only get 2 of the batteries in the standard dual battery bundle. So if you do find yourself wanting to vlog all day, then I would definitely recommend picking up a couple of extra batteries for the Ace Pro 2. The Ace Pro 2 does, however, have an endurance mode that extends the battery by up to 50% by disabling some of the features. I'll probably do a separate video about that, because I haven't fully tested it out out to know how accurate that 50% is, and I don't want to go into it in loads of detail in this video, so look out for a separate video about that if it's something that you're interested in. This also made me remember a feature the Ace Pro 2 has called reverse charging, where you can use the Ace Pro 2 to charge any other device just by plugging in a USB-C cable into the camera and then plug the other end into your phone, for example. The Action 5 Pro doesn't have this per se, but what you can do is use the battery case, with the batteries in it of course, to charge your phone or other devices. I always forget about this, and it's as simple as just plugging it in and you're good to go. With the Ace Pro 2, you have to select some stuff on the camera in the menu and then the charging will start. So there are a few extra steps involved. Okay, so let's get on to one of the things that tends to matter quite a lot to a lot of people, and that is video quality in various shooting situations. To me, the Ace Pro 2 looks more natural, but I have noticed in comparison to the Action 5 Pro or even the Action 4 or the GoPro Hero 13 that you do have to pick your sharpness level according to the scene and the lighting. With the other cameras, that's not so much the case. I can have my sharpness on my Action 5 Pro set to -2, which is the lowest setting it can go to, and the same goes for the Action 4 as well. And no matter whether it's sunny or overcast, the footage looks crisp. However, with the Ace Pro 2, if you have it set to low, the footage looks fine and crisp on a bright sunny day, but soft and almost out of focus in any other light situation. So you may have been looking at some of the footage throughout this video so far and thinking that it looks soft and almost a little bit out of focus, but that's because I shot a lot of the clips in low sharpness before actually realizing this. And so after speaking to Insta360 and then just playing around with the settings a little bit more for myself, I figured that on an overcast day, having the sharpness set to medium works really well. And then on a sunny day, having the sharpness set to low also works well, so it doesn't look over sharpened, because if you use the medium setting on a really bright sunny day where the sun is just blasting everything, then this footage I noticed came out a little bit over sharpened. It just looked too sharp for me anyway. But I'm going to be playing around with this more, and as I mentioned in a comment to somebody, I use new cameras as much as possible in a lot of situations, and so I try and find the best camera settings for the best situations. So I'm still going to do that, and when I have pretty much settled on the settings that I'm going to be using for either of the cameras, then I will share a video about that. So the biggest issue with the Osmo Action 5 Pro that I have with it, and that puts me off using it, and an issue that a lot of other people are also having, is the fact that the footage looks over processed in terms of the HDR look. And you tend to get that a lot of the time when shooting in the normal color profile. In D-Log-M, it's not really noticeable, if there at all, but things like the definition in the clouds is still not natural looking no matter what color profile you use, and you can really notice it when you look at the footage in comparison to the Action 4. The Action 4 and the Ace Pro 2 look more true to life, which is why in some instances I favour the Action 4 over the Action 5 Pro, and also favour the Ace Pro 2 over the Action 5 Pro. But overall you can see an improvement in the dynamic range in the Action 5 Pro, in particular against the Action 4. But the biggest strength of the Ace Pro 2 is the fact that you can turn HDR on and off, whereas the Action 5 Pro just doesn't have that setting, which just seems crazy. And the Action 4 didn't even need this anyway, because the image just seemed well balanced and it didn't have that HDR look to it. But this video isn't a comparison between the Action 4 and the Action 5 Pro. When there's been an update to the firmware for the Action 5 Pro, so another one, there's already been one, but another one, hopefully, then I will do a comparison between those two cameras so that you can see the difference with the new firmware, if there is one. There might not be one, but I imagine that there probably will be one. But for now, in general, with the Ace Pro 2, for natural looking footage in a lot of situations, it does a better job than the Action 5 Pro when shooting in the normal and standard colour profiles. For now anyway. But that's the other thing as well, the Ace Pro 2 can also shoot in log now, but I do find it easier to colour grade the Action 5 Pro D-Log-M footage than the Ace Pro 2 iLog footage, especially when matching the footage to other cameras when shooting a multi-camera setup. I think iLog is a really nice feature to have, but it definitely still needs a bit of work, as the shadows can often look a little bit crushed, a little bit overdone as well, which doesn't really give you much room to colour grade the footage in the nicest way. Okay, so the other part to the video quality of these two cameras is to do with low light. That's another thing that a lot of people are very interested in. But it's worth remembering too that low light doesn't necessarily just mean at night when it's pitch black outside. It could be sunset, it could be indoors in situations where the lighting is a little bit dingy, or on an overcast day when there's literally no sign of any bright sunlight. So just bear that in mind. And in those overcast situations, the footage from the Ace Pro 2 again looks more natural because the Action 5 Pro looks like it's trying too hard to suppress highlights. So my face kind of looks flat, like there's no contrast or highlights. It looks unnatural. The Ace Pro 2 and even the Action 4 have a more natural look to them, which is why again I was favouring the Action 4 over the Action 5 Pro. And once again, the sky is just lost in the Action 5 Pro. I know it's overcast and so cloud definition is a little bit harder to see, but you can clearly see it in the Ace Pro 2 and the Action 4, and it's true to what I'm seeing in real life as well. But with the Action 5 Pro, you just can't see any clouds. Now, if you look at the footage at night in the low light video modes that each of the cameras have, so super night mode on the Action 5 Pro and pure video on the Ace Pro 2, the footage of the Ace Pro 2 looks so much more natural again. Even though in the recent firmware update, the Action 5 Pro adjusted the look of super night to appear less processed. It's still not quite as good as pure video on the Ace Pro 2 from my eye, you might disagree, but I just feel like the Ace Pro 2 has that little bit of the edge over the Action 5 Pro. But what I will say though, is if you put the Action 5 Pro into normal video mode and normal colour profile, so not super night, and then you look at the footage compared to the Ace Pro 2 in its pure video mode, so not the normal video mode, I just wouldn't use the normal video mode on the Ace Pro 2 because pure night does this really good job and I don't really have any issues with it. So the Action 5 Pro in normal video, normal colour profile against the Ace Pro 2 pure video mode is actually very good, and the footage comes out looking really good. The only thing that you will notice is that there are jitters in the Action 5 footage, but if you have a gimbal and you use a gimbal with your action cameras at all in low light situations, then that's going to be completely eliminated. And so yeah, the Action 5 Pro footage in normal colour profile in the normal video setting does a very good job. When you compare it to the Ace Pro 2 as well, it's pretty much, for me, I would say they're not like for like because they look different, but they're both very good. So for me, I just wouldn't really bother with the super night video mode on the Action 5 Pro because it just, again, it has a processed, unnatural look to it that I just don't like. And so if you're planning on shooting in low light, then either of these two cameras are going to do a good job. Again, it's just going to come down to your preference and which one you prefer the look of, but you're not going to go wrong with either of the cameras. They're both going to do good. But having said that, playing on each of the camera's strengths, here's how I would go about choosing which one to use over the other. If I'm going away with my family or I'm doing a really quick vlog where I just want to pick up the camera, point and shoot, not have to worry about colour grading the footage or the audio in terms of where I'm going to put the mic or having to hold the mic or just little things like that, and also going on holiday or doing a vlog where I have so much footage that I end up just doing nothing with it, because I also forgot to mention that the Ace Pro 2 has an AI highlights feature in the camera. So as you're filming, as long as you've got that setting turned on, as you're filming, the camera will pick out specific highlights that it thinks will be good to make a video for you. And so for holiday footage and long vlogs where you're just kind of vlogging all day, I think that feature would be really great. I haven't tried it out properly, and it's one of the videos that I am going to do about this camera because I want to give it a proper good try out. But yeah, that and the other points that I mentioned are the biggest reasons why I would pick up the Ace Pro 2. However, if I'm filming a video where I have a little bit more time and I want to end up color grading my footage because I'm using multiple cameras, which is something that I do quite a lot. So if I'm using, for example, my Sony a7S III or my Osmo Pocket 3 and also shooting in log in those two cameras, then 100% I would pick up the Action 5 Pro, because like I said, in D-Log-M, the footage looks really good and I have used it for a few videos since the camera came out. And so in that situation, I wouldn't hesitate to pick up the Action 5 Pro. And I guess it just comes down to that each camera has its use, and it depends again what you want the camera for and how you're going to be using the camera. But let me be clear here, even though the Action 5 Pro needs to tone down the HDR look, I think overall, in general, it does have the better image quality when you look at the footage in terms of clarity and the sharpness of it, because even though you would set the Ace Pro 2 to medium sharpness, there's still a bit of a softness to it, especially if you're not shooting on a day where you've got lots of light, where it's really sunny. So on a day like today, for example, the footage just doesn't quite match up to the Action 5 Pro in that respect. So if quality really means a lot to you and you are going to spend the time to fine-tune your settings and colour grade your footage because you're quite happy to shoot in D-Log-M, at least until the HDR issue has been addressed, then I would 100% recommend the Action 5 Pro. But if quality isn't the biggest deal to you and you're happy with something that looks decent, but you're more interested in having more useful features and something that you can literally just pick up, point and shoot without having to do anything to your camera settings, really, then the Ace Pro 2 is what I would recommend. So drop a comment. Which one do you think you're leaning towards the most? And tell us what kind of videos you film and why you think that either of these two would be good for you in that situation, because your response could also help somebody else who is still potentially on the fence. So yeah, drop a comment and I'll catch you guys on the next video.